Join, welcome. Thanks for being here on your lunch break. Just get all the text up. We're also going to be going live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Hi, Natalie. Hello. Yeah, if you can drop in the chat where you're joining from, what your name is, what's brought you here. It's always great to know who's gonna be joining the session and where you're coming from, because often these things it's really surprising to hear where people actually are, which is great. Welcome everybody. Hi Glenn, Cincinnati. Natalie, hi, Manchester. Welcome everyone. I'll just give a couple of moments for people to arrive and get settled in. Tunisia, Katie. Oh, that sounds lovely. Hi Jeremy in London. It's a really great mix of you coming from all over. Just as we're waiting for people to join, to say, if you've got any questions at any point as Andrea's going through the session, we will just please do pop them in the chat, and we'll either come to them at the end or hand them over to Andrea to answer in the moment. We'll keep an eye on those. Also on social, if you've got anything, do drop them on the event on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure those get passed over as well. Today's session is being recorded, so if you need to dash off or you think this will resonate with anyone else, please do feel free to share the recording, which we'll email across to you this afternoon. And have a notebook handy, as there'll be a few short reflections throughout the session. Glenn, in answer to a question, is it cold in the UK yet? I would say yes. Yes, Andrew, you're agreeing. Got the woolly jumpers out today. All right, great. So without further ado, thank you everybody for being here. Today's masterclass, which is hosted by Andrea from Social Starters, is all about redesigning work for a life that matters. So it's a theme that we care deeply about at Escape the City. Meet so many people who are at a crossroad in their career, ready for more purpose or freedom, or balance, but unsure about, what that next step might look like for them. And that's exactly why we're really excited, and it feels really, really aligned to be teaming up with Social Starters, who are going to be hosting this amazing session, which feeds into their program that they have, the Inner Quest program, which I'm going to let Andrea tell you about in proper depth. But yeah, thank you very much for being here. Yes, a Philippine is sharing there as well. And which brings me perfectly to hand over to you, Andrea. So happy to have you here. So thank you. You are obviously the author of the book Social Starters, Making Changing the World Your Business, and founder of several social enterprises, which I know you've spent over a decade helping people align who they are with what they do, and their values. So I will hand over to you to start the session, and just to say thank you very much for being here, and thanks all of you who have joined the session as well today for spending your lunch break with us.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Hilary, for that intro. Can you see my slides now?
Yes, they look great.
Awesome. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Gamson, and today we're going to be exploring really what are just 6 simple steps to redesigning work for a life that matters. So yeah, as mentioned, my name is Andrea, and I was the co-founder of a social enterprise called Social Starters, but more recently the author of Social Starters, Make Changing the World Your Business, which is, I've got to say, available on all good bookstores and came out last month. So it's very exciting. It was 8 years in the making, and definitely my mountain to climb. And I know you've probably all got one as well. But what I spend most of my time doing now is that I currently run a social impact training company called Social Impact Support. It runs mentoring programs and leadership development courses. And I'm also the director of 2 social enterprises. But more interestingly, probably, is that recently I acquired 9 backyard chickens, which has proven to be so much more work than I could have ever imagined. But go do it if you have a dream to do something like that. and then come and tell me about it because I could talk about it for hours. But yeah, thank you for coming and joining me today, whether it's your breakfast, lunchtime, or your evening. I promise this hour is going to be nourishing and practical. So, for a little bit of context, here I am. I didn't look quite so much like this when I worked in the commercial side of mainstream media, far more suited and booted back then. And I was at the Times and Sunday Times around the time of the Lehman Brothers collapse. And basically, the industry was in quite a lot of turmoil. Even though it had been my dream to work in media ever since I was younger, I was finding it wasn't quite the industry that I was imagining. It was pretty dog eat dog, a really sink or swim environment, to be honest. And if you've seen recent TV shows about the phone hacking era, well, basically that was the backdrop of my first career, the first 10 years of it. And so there I was, 29 years old, nearly 30, getting the Sunday scaries. Don't know if those are familiar to you. And this question was creeping in for me. And the question was, is this it? Is this my purpose, really, helping the wealthy, sorry, get wealthier? Am I a cog in a machine that I'm really starting to not even sure I believe in anymore? And so I quit and I went on a purpose quest. And to do that, I undertook jobs I never thought I would be doing as I turned 30, from working pub shifts to then ending up at Christmas in a Santa's grotto. But not any old Santa's grotto, of course. I had to go to the one that was David Beckham's favourite Santa's grotto. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it, right? But I think really what was going on for me was that I just wanted to get as far away from a boardroom as possible. And so I started volunteering to get closer to the people and causes I cared about. I realized actually along the way that I was what I've come to know as a shadow artist, which is a known concept in Julia Cameron's work in The Artist's Way. And I was suppressing my creative voice essentially whilst orbiting the world of the creatives. So that forced me to get out there and start doing things that were different. So I volunteered in some prisons, and then that led me to a job at a magazine, actually, which was run by young people for young people who, in some cases, were at risk of ending up in prison themselves. And I found myself going on this really meandering, interesting journey where I was following the scent. And after a few years doing that and being quite successful at it, I went freelance for the first time that I'd ever been freelance. So that felt like starting to create my own work and design work for me in a way that suited me. And it was along that journey where I went to an Escape the City talk, actually. And that saw me then 3 months later launch a social enterprise overseas, which funnily enough was the title of the talk, How to Launch a Social Enterprise Overseas. So then 3 years on from that, I'm working in international development. I'm running volunteer programs and supporting grassroots organizations to become sustainable. And since then, I've helped 500 plus professionals redesign their work around purpose across 5 countries. So today I'm going to share this framework that emerged from all of this work, which is the 6 P's of purpose. And it's also the framework that underpins my book. So why does any of this matter? Well, for me personally, it matters hugely. It's everything, actually, as I went from quite a depressed 30-year-old contemplating the meaning of it all to someone who found anchoring and meaning. And this process really just pulls out what's already in you, but it's just probably hidden or suppressed by the systems that we've grown up in that just really taught us to be something else. So today's plan is to cover over the 6 Ps, give you an overview of those. There'll be some mini reflections peppered throughout. It'll be really great if you work with us in the chat as well and share what's coming through, because that will be so interesting to hear what's coming through for you. And then there'll be some resources I'll share at the end if you want to go deeper. So how does that sound? Is that sounding good? Yay. Okay. All right. Let's begin. So let's come back to that infamous question, which I know I was thinking, and I've heard so many people tell me it since unprompted. But it's that question around, is this it? Whether it's whispering to us during the commute or maybe even during some of those team meetings that I know we all have. Let's just take a minute, because you might well be doing really well on paper, and perhaps you know that you ought to be grateful for your lot, right? Maybe you're just genuinely really grateful with your lot, but perhaps something feels just a little bit off, right? You maybe crave meaning, and you do believe you were meant for something greater sometimes, even though when we say that to ourselves, it might even feel arrogant. But, despite all of that, you really like paying the rent. So you get caught in this place where you never really move in any other direction than either up or sideways. And let's be honest, purpose used to be seen as a little bit of a luxury. Maybe it's a midlife reinvention reserved for those with savings or sabbaticals, which is, not always possible. Or maybe purpose is a calling, right? It's for those people over there who have chosen their path. They're doctors, midwives. Maybe they work in the fire brigade. It's that real hero type stuff, right? Best suited to the brave. But the last few years have certainly changed these ideas. There's all kinds of brave now, including the type that rejects being a cog in a machine. I mean, I really like this idea now around career activism. It's this idea that you can design your work to suit who you are, not suit the system. And I also really like this quote from Emily Esfahani Smith, who writes about meaning. And she says, there's a myth in our culture that the search for meaning is some kind of esoteric pursuit. The truth is, there are untapped sources of meaning all around us right here and right now. So, yeah, purpose isn't out there in a monastery or far up in the Himalayas. It's right here. It's in how we work, it's how we relate and how we contribute. It's in the choices that we make. So, how do we find it? Well, let me introduce you to the framework that's guided hundreds of social starters through career changes with clarity, and that is the 6 Ps of purpose. Yeah, this is an adventure, I would say. It's a personal development journey, and you can also treat it a bit like a map that takes you from confusion to clarity. In it, there's these 6 Ps, from personal identity to passion, people and principles, prioritization, and then profit. So let's walk through each one briefly. Okay, so personal identity. When we strip away our job titles and our roles, who actually are we? Most of us build identities around what we do rather than who we are. And it's a little bit cringe to admit, but I used to introduce myself as the CEO of my old company, the first one that ever started. I was just really proud of this title. I worked so hard to get there, but actually, really, that was my ego speaking. Either that or I was hiding behind something. At the very least, I think I was just tapping into like quite a male, masculine energy within me, having been in that environment. And I just felt this need to be seen and respected. And perhaps maybe the title was just helping me with my imposter syndrome. I've never actually introduced myself with adjectives. Now, can you imagine trying that instead? Hi, I'm Andrea Gamson, and I'm daring, a deep thinker, and actually quite contrary. It wasn't until a burnout moment that I then really started to ask, who have I become? I didn't even know what stopping still looked like, actually. I didn't realize that I was constantly squashing my true inner voice. And actually, I'd spent decades masking myself from who I wanted to be or was meant to be. And so, what I've learned doing this work with hundreds of other individuals all seeking change is that purpose begins when we remember that we're human first and professionals second. So, after that slightly cringy feeling that's still in my body from sharing that vulnerably, I would invite you to write in the chat, if you're feeling brave, which 3 words describe who you are beyond your job? I'm looking for the chat now so that I can go and have a little wee look. Oof, here we go. Yeah, which 3 words would describe who you are? Letty says big thinking, curious, courageous. I love that. Pip says adventurous, passionate, kind. Yeah, creative, kind, powerful, dynamic, generous, robust. Well, they're moving quite fast now. Passionate, chatty, brave, optimistic, a bit naive. Oh, Philippine. I love that. You need to be naive sometimes, I think, because if you know too much about everything, there's perhaps the chance you wouldn't do it. Oh, Heather, systems thinker, that just caught my eye. I love that. Yeah, Utama says argumentative, curious, brave. I love it. This is brilliant. John, idealistic, passionate, transparent. Great. This is brilliant. I love it. Okay, so given that that was quite easy for you, it seems like your homework then is going to be looking at where you show up as those three things in your life and in your work. And then the invitation as you explore that and reflect on it in the coming days is going to be that if you're not quite hitting on those three things, then what can you go and do to go and do something that then means that you are? What can you go and do that then means that you are? Brilliant. Okay. So obviously we are skimming through these, but that gives you a little bit of a taste to feel. And likewise with passion, I just want to say passion is less about the fireworks side of things. It's more about energy, where we spend our energy, the things that we're drawn to and magnetized toward. So I would say notice what gives you, even if it's just like a quiet one, like a little bit of a spark, either when you do it or when you think about it. Maybe it's the thing that you can talk about or do for hours just without checking your phone. You can get completely lost in it. I like to think of this as being in flow. I think that's common terminology now. But yeah, I had a client once, she rediscovered hers when she realized her favorite part of her corporate job was when she was mentoring the interns. And so, interestingly, she then later built a youth mentorship social enterprise. And one of my favorite parts of the passion aspect of this framework is that when you assess your passions versus the causes that you care about as well, loads of really interesting stuff starts to come through about potential avenues and opportunities. This exercise will get you to think about ways that maybe you could do a little bit more, give a little bit more back, or enter yourself into spaces that you care about that you have currently no exposure to. And that might be through the route of going in volunteering. It might be through fundraising, taking on a challenge and raising money for a cause. Or it could be about going on a travel or a purpose quest or some kind of learning adventure. So ask yourself here, what do I naturally lean towards, even when you're really tired? Where do you get pulled? And we talk about passion in this way where we're very aware that there's a bit of a meme out there saying, like, don't follow your passions. Actually, that's really bad advice. But hopefully you can see that we're talking about passions in a much deeper, broader sense here. It's not just about your hobby, but this is about the pattern beneath that fulfills you. Yeah. So the third P of purpose. Purpose deepens when we connect our skills to people or causes that need them. So maybe it's women in tech or local communities or the planet itself. The moment you link your talent to service, work gains so much more meaning. Let's take Gemma, for example. She started working in advertising like me. She then shifted into ad tech. She started a company, sold that, started another one, sold that one. Then she got onto a tech accelerator, became a co-founder of a new social enterprise, a mental health startup that was using machine learning to help kids deal with self-harm. But then that touched on something very personal for her. She found herself on a mental health journey of her own and had to shift lanes into something else, which was a huge pivot that she didn't see coming, but has now found herself becoming a holistic coach. And she's working with female founders in tech to help them prevent burnout. So a little prompt for you here would be just to have a think about which causes you care about, who are the people that you would love to serve. Were you given the opportunity to share your skills and do that, whatever that might be? So drop in, maybe it's an emoji of the planet, if the planet is what you really care about, if climate change is your cause. Perhaps you want to drop in a green heart if you really care about mental health and want to do more in that arena. Perhaps if you really care about education, you might want to drop in some books or tell us the word of the cause that really lights you up. Just waiting for them all to come in. Love the green heart. First thing that's caught my eye. Human rights. Yeah, refugee rights. That's so topical. Yeah, regenerative agriculture. Absolutely, Philippine. Yeah, women, libraries, art and culture, more planets. Yeah, parents. 100%. Getting kids and young people back into nature. Oh, Tess, we need to have a chat. Yeah, accessible good food for all. New innovations to solve our climate issues. Brilliant, Christina. This is so great. I love this group. You've all got so many ideas. This is awesome, which makes me think that you're thinking about this stuff already, which definitely means you're in the right place. Okay, so the fourth P of purpose is principles. This is all about what do I stand for. Now, our principles are these invisible lines that we just won't cross, right? They're like our compass or our North Star. It keeps us aligned. And so when you do work around values, it can be really deep work, and it can also be quite interesting and reveal things about yourself that you didn't know. So I'm just keen to know from this group, like, what are your top three values? Do you know what they are? Can you write them down? Um, are you aware of how they show up in your work and life? It's a really, really interesting one, and I'm going to pause for a moment because I just want you to take a moment and have a think about it. Do you know what your core daily principles are, for example? Is it fairness, creativity, adventure, compassion? Is there something about needing more flexibility, more time to spend with the family? Yeah, integrity, equality, freedom, service to others, gratitude, curiosity. Love it. Truthfulness, freedom, equality, collaboration, planet first. Brilliant, Miranda. 100%. And yeah, Harry, totally. Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. This is great. It's so easy to be in that place where you're like, do you know what? Maybe I've got 50 values. And when you do this exercise, I remember when I first did it, it was with this brilliant coach called Neil Prem, and he taught us in half a day the value of values. It's so much deeper work than just picking three words out of the air. And whilst we haven't got half a day to work on this today, just have a little think about, if you don't know what your values are, find my worksheet with 50 or so values written on it, and we'll take you through the exercise in the inner quest, or come to me in some other way, and I'll share an explainer on how to do it. But this is about whittling down what might feel like 10 or 20 values that are all really important to you, and whittling it down to five core ones that fundamentally you couldn't live this existence without them in your life. You just know life would not be worth living if you didn't have them. It's quite hard to do, but you can do it by a process of elimination, ultimately. And when you get there, you will then be able to see this compass for how you can look at your work and your life and see all the areas of your life and how they're showing up against these core values. It's the most illuminating work you can do. And Philippine here will remember doing it. It shows you where you've got friction rubbing up against you in these corners of your life. It will show you where actually things are going really well, and then you'll be able to see why. It's foundational stuff, and it just really reminds me of the famous adage that says something along the lines of write your principles in pen and your business plan in pencil. And I really like it because it's basically saying your fundamental values should be firm in everything that you do, life and work. They should be unchanging because it's core to who you are. While your strategies and your business models, they can be flexible and adaptable. They can change. Yeah. Tip, friendship, kindness, calm. Love that. Okay, so the fifth P is prioritization, which is all about looking at where you start. How do you bring all of this new awareness together when you've been going through the other four Ps? And basically, I would say this one is for the overthinkers amongst us, myself included. Knowing your purpose basically means nothing if it only lives in a notebook. So if you've been working with the prior Ps, just start to think of them like a mindset. It's a mindset and a muscle that you're strengthening. And perhaps think of them less as linear steps that you must do, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because actually that can cause a bit of a freeze because we're all working with energy in this space. So it's important to recognize when you need to get out of bed and get yourself to the gym. And it's also important to recognize when you need to work on your mind as well, because your mind is a muscle, and that is how you're going to create change, by working on it. And you can do that in tiny steps or larger ones, depending on what feels right for you. So when you get to the prioritization part of the P's, have a think about what you've learned along the way, do that reflection, and really start to notice, how is resistance showing up in your life? I mean, I personally actually think resistance as a tool is possibly one of the best ones that you can ever cultivate. Learning where your resistance line is and when it tends to get drawn, because it will teach you what your relationship with comfort zone and then the growth zone is, or maybe even the fear zone. And this is a process really of taking one doable step. So that one doable step might just be LinkedIn, right? Taking your LinkedIn headline and changing it ever so slightly, because, you want to cultivate a new type of freelancing for yourself that's focusing on, I don't know, regenerative business or something. It might be that you just want to book a volunteering experience in for a day, or do something different just to get out the house and do a bit of giving back. It might be that actually setting yourself a 20-minute walk and thinking moment might be it. And you want to do that each week or something, and just get that in the diary. These are the simple steps. It doesn't have to be rocket science. And then really, you've just got to get out there and just fucking do it. It's really that simple. Find the thing that feels like it has an edge for you, put it in the diary, and then do it. And if you don't do it, what was the barrier that stopped you? And then that is the noticing. Don't beat yourself up. Don't blame yourself. Don't go into a shame spiral. This is the process of understanding what gets in your way. Because when you can learn this, you'll then be able to start getting those blocks out of the way. So I'll give you a little story, for example. Well, it's a little bit more of an imaginary story, right? So I'm going to pose the question. Did you diarize once, maybe, that you were going to go to an event for something and then never show up? Like, let's just imagine maybe it was a political meeting, perhaps it was with your local Green Party. Yeah, let's use this as an example and work with this. So, firstly, how much do you want to learn more about the politics of the Green Party? Quite a lot. Okay, amazing. So you definitely want to go there, but there's a bit of an edge. All right, let's explore that edge. What's in your way? Okay, the time of the event. Yeah, you've got the kids that day. Fair enough. Is there a Zoom option? Oh, right. Okay, you want to do this in person. Cool. So what's getting in your way of going to their next event? Can you swap your night with the kids? Yeah, okay, great. What's in your way now then? Oh yeah, okay, I feel you there. The winter's kicking in, it's getting really cold, the nights are getting dark. Fine, I understand that. Yeah, I get it. When the night rolls around, you've probably had a really tough day at work, you're keen to get home. You've got a night off from the kids engineered, right? You want to go home, open a bottle of wine, put your feet up. I feel that. This is a tough one. We can probably all relate to this. So yeah, let's have a look at this. You've got the comfort zone, basically luring you on the right, and then you've got the stretch zone on the left. I wouldn't say it's luring you, but it's an option, right? Maybe it's even the fear zone, because, you know, that's going to be a room of people that you don't know, and you're going to have to talk to them. So there's too many unknowns there. There's a lot of uncertainty. What this assignment is essentially asking of you is to turn up to an event on a dark, cold, perhaps rainy night. You're knackered and cold, and you're going to have to talk to strangers, potentially highly intellectual strangers, about a topic that interests you, but might not necessarily be your specialist dinner party topic, but you do want to learn more about it. Anyway, you get the idea. Change only happens when you get out the comfort zone. At the end of the day, you can have your chilled evening another night, right? But if you want to grow, you do need to push yourself. And if you're not used to doing this, then this is your growth zone. And if you're used to doing this, then prioritization for you is going to be in another area of your life, which the prior steps will assist you with to find out. Learning where your edge is and then dipping your toe over that edge to see what happens when you show up for yourself there. Purpose grows from momentum, basically, not miracles. So with that all in mind, what's one small change you could make this week that moves you closer to alignment. Any changes you could make this week? One tiny small thing that will just shift you forward? Do feel free to tell us in the chat. While all that was going on, someone was really banging on my door. So someone's trying to make something happen there. Yeah. I'm not saying you all have to get down to the Green Party. I'm not a member of the Green Party. But you get the idea. It can be so much smaller than that. And all of these things that you can do to come closer to alignment can create the shift. Can be as big or as small as you need them to be, really. Okay, well, I'll let you ponder on that one. That's really interesting, isn't it? That the thought processes now are whirring harder, and everyone's thinking, I wonder what this is. And it might be that you have to go away and have a little bit of a think about it. But yeah, we're now going to take a slightly different turn and move on to the 6P, profit. Profit doesn't need to be a dirty word at all. Far from it. This is really about how can money serve my purpose? And that can also show up in a number of different ways. Sure, it's a bit of an uncomfortable subject, but let's just get it out of the way. I don't believe profit, rather, is the enemy of purpose. In fact, I promise to you that it's the enabler. It funds your impact, it funds well-being, and it creates time for you to be more creative. Now, my background has since been, since I left corporate media, in supporting social enterprises, both here in the UK and overseas. And so I thought maybe this would be an interesting moment just to think about how they behave when it comes to money and profit, because it's really quite interesting. So you've got these businesses like any other business. They might be a charity operating in a more commercial way, but mostly on the whole, social enterprises are businesses driven by purpose. They've got a mission that is in the field of social or environmental impact. Now, a common characteristic of a social enterprise is for them to give some or most of their profits back into delivering on their mission. And there's so many different ways that they can do that. It could be through the behaviors of what they do, projects that they create, employability programs, and so on. Or it could be that they reinvest or redirect those profits into a charitable cause through a partnership or a charity that they've set up themselves. But there is a legal structure for social enterprise. So whilst it can be quite far reaching from all sorts of different types of businesses, from B Corps to those, with 1% for the planet membership, ethical businesses, organic certified businesses, and so much more. There is a legal structure, which is a CIC, community interest company. You don't have to have that to run a social enterprise, but it might do you some favors if you want to secure funding. But charities can also be, social enterprises can also be limited companies by shares or by guarantee. They can be, as mentioned, a charity or a sole trader or a partnership. Anyway, I don't want to lose you. The point I want to make here is that profit serves the mission. Without it, the enterprise struggles to find sustainable ways to deliver on its mission, because funding is an enabler, often for specific projects that support people, your community, or the planet. But that funding rarely underwrites the core costs of the business, such as your salary as directors. So the social enterprise needs to generate commercial revenue and profit. This is where it becomes quite revolutionary to the idea of a charity. Charities being always, more reliant on people donating money towards them, and then they spend that money on their impactful solution, say, for example, cancer research. So you've got a social enterprise as a business model that's emerged really out of the last 15 years. And if it interests you, go explore it, because there's so many other behavioral characteristics that are relatively new ideas in the business world, such as the asset lock and the dividends cap. Now, these aren't things to be afraid of if you're hugely commercially driven, but they protect the mission more than shareholders. And this is where I get a little bit of the tingles, because this means we're starting to develop a different relationship with profit in the business world than in that traditional business model of shareholder primacy that we've come to know and perhaps loathe a little bit. And if the business world can start to develop a different relationship with profit, then so can you. So think of yourself in a new way, because your work is what you are in control of. What does enough look like for you in terms of your money, your income, your profit? Now, I really like this idea in the personal development world that says you should always invest around 10% of your income into your growth. I think that if you're someone who's keen to transform your work or your business, your relationships, your mind, your body, etc., then this probably needs to be more like 20%. But have a think about that and what that means for your own bottom line. And then imagine, what could you do with that 10 to 20%? Where could you invest it? And then on top of that, imagine what that's going to do for you. Think about all the things that you're going to learn, all that growth that you're going to have, and all those new ideas and concepts that you'll be exposed to because of those investments. Likewise, there's another idea, which I personally really liked when I first started freelancing, which was around imagining myself, me, myself, and I, a little bit like a social enterprise. So you've got these businesses that are giving their profits back into their mission. Maybe 25% they're giving to their cause, or even 51%. And then imagine as a freelancer giving a percentage of your time to, say, the social cause that you really care about. Now, it could be that you do that through volunteering, or it might be that you want to support a social entrepreneur who's starting a social enterprise, and perhaps start them in this role of what we call in our social starters world, a starter consultant. This is the term that we have given to those who share their skills with social entrepreneurs to help them build their brand, streamline their operations, maybe, or grow their revenue. And yeah, way back when I adopted this mindset, I then found myself wrapping up my UK-based projects, heading on a purpose quest to Kenya, volunteering in an area I really wanted to develop skills around for my CV and just for life experience. And yeah, it then made sense to me that, I'm now in charge of my time and my working life, and I choose who I work with. So I can spend 75% of the year earning the day rate I'm happy with, and then I can spend the other 25% of the year really doing what I want to donate my time to, doing projects and causes that I really care about. And once I got that into my head, within 3 months, I understood more about supporting grassroots entrepreneurs than I ever could have, which then led to being invited into a new work opportunity that then completely changed my life. And so if you're thinking, yeah, but that's you, Andrea, I promise this isn't an isolated incident, and you don't need to go to Kenya to figure out your purpose. For me, that was important because I really wanted to work internationally. I wanted to work in development, and yeah, I just really felt the calling to go and do that. But working overseas taught me that there's a growing movement of businesses, from startups to multinationals as well, applying purpose through profit. So, yeah, there's a really large call now for work in this space. So, whether you have a Lean Six Sigma belt, or maybe a mental health first aid training certificate, or you've got a passion for permaculture, try to find three quite broad things that you might have skills in, you can find yourself working in this arena, be it as a consultant or even as an employee. Now, startups, purpose-driven organizations, even some more commercially minded charities and individuals who are seeking to grow what they're starting, they seek professionals with skills like yours to support them. Whether you work in marketing, operations, finance, sales, business development, program management, you name it. And you can come on board either as a mentor or a coach or even a consultant. You can share your skills, you can learn new skills and impart them. And the great news is that all three of these ways that you can work together and collaborate can be paid. So the final thing I just want to share is that there's a new style of leadership that's emerging. It's really important to know this. Giles Hutchins, two of my favorite authors, Giles Hutchins and Laura Storm, write in their book, Regenerative Leadership, that we are entering the next stage of leadership consciousness. This is where business serves life and not the other way around. It's a form of, say, inclusive leadership, and perhaps it's a more feminine style of leadership. It comes in many guises, to be fair with you, and you might know this under a different banner. The style that I've been trained in is regenerative leadership, but I would encourage you to go and check it out. It's completely mind-blowing and can completely change the way that you look at the world. And whilst I haven't really touched on this yet, I do want to pose the question, what if purpose and the purpose of life isn't to be happy, like I think a lot of us think it is, and it's not to be fulfilled, like it can often be described as, but it's really just simply to create the conditions conducive for creating life. It's this regenerative worldview. It's all about creating conditions conducive for creating life, perhaps. You know, I really buy into this. If you think that we've got this old extractive system of business, right, driven by profit generation, but it's killing the planet effectively for this pursuit of wealth, which really only tends to fund that 1%. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we've got this new form of business emerging that's life creating. It's shifting the way we behave, and it's designed to protect the planet. It's to give back more than it takes. It's designed to create life affirming principles for people and communities so that we can thrive, not just survive. So the question here for reflection might just be, how could your income and your impact rise together rather than compete? Oh yeah, and Philippine Good Gym. Yeah, brilliant that you've mentioned them. That's a really great example of a social enterprise, getting you out to do exercise and keep fit and healthy and meet others, so building community, but then also volunteering and giving back and yeah, supporting those that need the help. It's just such a triple win. Okay, so here are all 6 Ps. Let's just have a quick recap. So we started with personal identity. This is all about coming to know yourself. It's that inner quest, the deep dive on who you really are, revealing who's living underneath the mask. And we've all created masks. I think it's just the society that we've grown up in. So this is the process of peeling that back and unearthing your true self. Then number 2 is passion. This is all about following energy, looking at little sparks, things that bring you a sense of feeling alive or being in flow, and then following the scent on that and making life feel like this really passionate, exciting thing and going on a little scent, following the white rabbit. Then number 3 is people. This is all about the people that you care about most. It's the 5 people that you spend the most time with, actually. It's looking at your inner circle and asking yourself, where do you net out at? If the old adage is true that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. But it's also about serving those that you care about the most. Then principles is where you stay aligned, you understand what your values are, your core, say 5 values, and then you ask yourself some really interesting, perhaps even challenging questions about whether you're living in alignment with those values. And you can do a wheel of life exercise in there, maybe even a wheel of values exercise, and start to dissect core corners of your life and your work and see where and understand really where things might be rubbing up against you. And then the 5th is all about prioritization. This is the mindset. It's all about starting small. It's about noticing your line of resistance, figuring out your next manageable step. And of course, within that, developing the muscle for change. It really is just a muscle. And so then 6 is about profit. And this is, you're not just resourcing your mission, although it's a big part of it. It's really rethinking your relationship with money and how you distribute your time. You know, at the end of the day, I hope the message has become clear here that wealth is way more than the balance on your bank account or on your balance sheet. It's the inner wealth too, be it yours or the inner wealth of your organization. So the question here for the chat is, which one feels most alive for you right now? Which of the 6 Ps of purpose are you feeling a call to, most intrigued by, or most aligned with? And if you could drop the number in the chat, that will give me a moment just to catch my breath, I think, and catch up on some of the brilliant things coming through. Philippine, I don't know if you want to chime in here actually and just say a few things if you're still with us. I know you've got to go soon, haven't you?
Hey guys, yeah, just before I do a nursery pickup, I went through this whole framework. I read Andrea's book and I did the program back in 2021, I believe, and it was amazing. It was an absolutely transformational journey. I had never done personal development before, and I used to be a startup consultant for the film and music industries. And today, since the program, so it took me 3 years to fully transition. I am an olive oil producer and a regenerative agriculture advocate. So nothing to do, but just to kind of demonstrate that this method is working and that amazing things happen when you get out of your comfort zone. So thank you so much, Andrea, because I will never go back.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, and if you do have to run off, then I'll catch up with you later. Thanks. Okay, so just to close then, really, maybe this is your next step. I think the 6Ps really are just the beginning. They are very much a mirror reflecting back to you what's already within you that needs space to emerge. And that real change only happens when you take time to walk through them properly and give yourself that time to do that work. So I think it's probably a bit of an invitation. If this sparked something within you, if this session has alivened something, then you can come and join us and dive deeper through the Inner Quest, which is our self-guided 6-week course where we're going to unpack each of the Ps through videos, worksheets, and weekly prompts. And you'll also get a bunch of other things too. You'll get a free reflection journal to start today. You'll get a free copy of my book, Social Starters, which I've been told is funny, human, very insightful and easy to read, but in the best possible way. And you'll also get 50% of the cost of coaching with me and the team if you want some one-on-one support, which actually, if you had up to 3 sessions with me, that would save you 180, which is worth the cost of the course alone. I'll ping some links into the chat. It's obviously totally optional, but it's there if you want to keep momentum going. Here's the course link, so you can come and have a join there. And hang about to the end because, or note it down actually, the bit.ly at the top there, bit.ly/IQESC20. I'm going to write that out as well. 1 minute. Here we go. IQ Escape 20. Check and put the right one in. There you go. If you use that, oh, Letty, brilliant. Cool, thank you for that. That is going to give you £20 off the bundle of the course with 1 coaching session that's already discounted. So I think it comes down to about £220 from 300 overall. And yeah, I've got probably a bit of time for some questions if you have any. I'd love to hear your thoughts, what's landed for you, or what your biggest takeaway from is today.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrea. That's been so insightful. I've certainly been thinking about the idea of the investments of the 10 to 20% that you were talking about. I feel like that really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing. I had a couple of questions come in on social and also one on the Q&A. So shall I put them to you and then you can answer them? Someone on LinkedIn, on the Zoom has said, is volunteering necessary to land a job from a corporate background into philanthropy?
It's such a great and very important question. And I would say, look at it like this. Are you getting anywhere moving into corporate philanthropy without having demonstrated an interest in cause-related work? Because if you haven't been getting anywhere, then demonstrating that interest, there's a numerous number of ways you can do it, for which volunteering is one, but that is going to be what gets your CV to the top of the pile, because that's what employers are looking for, is a vested interest, and that this is deeper rooted than just waking up one day and saying, do you know what, I fancy a bit of a change, I want to go and do that. So yeah, it plays an important role. It doesn't mean that you have to. There's a number of different things you can do to demonstrate that interest from learning and other forms of exposure. But I would suggest that, yeah, it's probably something that's really worth taking a look at to expose you to the causes that you care about the most, so that you can make the shift.
Great, thanks, Andrea. And I suppose linking to that, Christian said earlier in the webinar chat, it's easier to volunteer or try things when you are a freelancer. Any advice for employees on how to gain practical experience in new areas when you are less flexible with your time?
Yeah, and it's so tough, isn't it? Because I have mentees through the corporate volunteering programs that I run, and they're time poor. But you know what? They still find time to do it. And I think the thing is, if it's something that you really want to do, you'll carve room for it. You could probably do an audit actually on how you spend your time and find numerous things in there to free yourself up 2 or 3 hours a week. And that's being generous, because there's loads of different things you could do with that 2 or 3 hours a week. Volunteering doesn't need to be more than, let's say you had a volunteer scheme in your work and it was a skills-based opportunity. You might then only need to go and give an hour of your time a month to mentor your mentee. So the time is there. Did that answer the question? Because I've already forgotten what the question was.
Yeah, I would say it did. And also, I would just add to that if you, chances are, if it's something you're exploring, it's probably something you're interested in. So it might be something you'll actually get quite a lot of good energy from finding a bit of time for. Miranda said, how would you recommend dealing with distraction and keeping focused? Great question.
Yes, it's very relevant. Okay, so I'm an energetic being and I like working in like a state of flow, which might mean that I'll dance around and do lots of different things or one after the other. And I find regimented, structured time blocks can be quite helpful. And it means that I can ensure I get stuff done. You've got two ways of looking at distraction. Is it healthy distraction or is it unproductive? And being able to catch it out. So if you go, okay, now that I know that's an unproductive distraction, it's not going to help me, then just develop a bit of a boundary around it and don't do it. But if you almost like need a distraction because of the way your mind works or because of the way your energy needs to be broken up throughout the day, then like just be able to like allow it to yourself sometimes as a bit of a treat, because too much restriction can create a rebelliousness inside of us to wake up, right? And then the lure to want to do things that are distractive will just be greater. So it's a bit of a balance of allowing some in, but then knowing when to say no based on your own prioritization, your own needs and deadlines. I hope that's helpful.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Natalie has said, probably a silly question, not a silly question. What if you are not a leader as a person?
Well, first of all, I'd want to, just sit down and gently unpack that a little bit. Where does the perception of not being a leader come from, first of all? Is it coming from a place of a bit of imposter syndrome or lack of experience or confidence? And second of all, leadership and the term leader, I suppose it feels like putting something a bit on a pedestal, doesn't it? And we might just feel like that's not for us. But otherwise, I would want to talk about notions of what leadership is and its importance in the world, and how do we view it? Because I like to come through the lens of, we are leaders of ourselves, we are leaders of our own work, and we're leaders of how we move ourselves through our lives. And that self-leadership is really important, because it means that then we are the ones in the driving seat rather than letting whatever else is going on outside of that controlling us. And so that feels quite empowering to me. And I think when I learned that, I then was able to step into this idea of leader and leadership in a way more comfortable way. Otherwise, before that, I did feel like it was a bit icky, but that was probably because of the system of leadership that I've been exposed to wasn't my form or style of leadership. So since I found the regenerative leadership style, which is far more inclusive, leans more into feminine energy qualities, I've really seen, and I've seen that throughout some incredible males of the species as well, by the way. They've been some of my greatest teachers. I have found myself then able to step more into my own leadership, and that leadership power that I always had within me, I just didn't allow it to come through. I didn't have the confidence for it. I talked around
Great.
it a bit, but
No, that
I
I think
just
that's
really wanted to touch on that, yeah, because we've all got a leader within us, which is what I think, yeah, it's
yeah,
important.
such nice framing, such, like you say, empowering framing. Question from Esme. Hey, Esme, what would your top tips be to explore the world of social enterprises if you are new to the area?
Oh
Great
yeah,
question.
definitely. Well, they're everywhere. There's 100 and something thousand of them in the UK officially registered with Social Enterprise UK. So you could start there, which is the governing membership body of UK social enterprises. Go on their website and have a look because they list all of the members. You could go to their events and you can look up other organizations who are social enterprise type or social impact organization membership type networking events and things like that. So have a look in, yeah, online, see what events are in your local area. Just use the word social enterprise in there. There might be a membership organization in your local area that's probably volunteer run, or it might have some funding, and they'll probably put on events. So you can start going to those and meeting them. So that's probably a really good place to start. It's like learning what's on your doorstep and around you. And if you want to volunteer, there'll be so many grassroots social enterprise organisations that would love you to come along and lend your skills, your time, your hands, your energy, and your support. And you can learn so much just from doing that. And if nothing else, it can be a really fun thing to do.
Great. Time for a couple more questions before we let everyone get back to their days. For anyone who feels like, I guess, if they've lost their sense of purpose, what's one small daily practice that could maybe help them to reconnect with it?
Okay. I think the thing that feels strongest for me would be to spend some time being with you, reflecting. And there's so many different ways that you could have a mindful minute. Or if journaling is your craft, or if you are really into nature, you could take a walk in the woods. But I think there's just something about like stopping still and being truly in the moment and being with yourself and being comfortable with yourself and allowing your wise inner owl, if you will, to have space to come through. I haven't found a person yet that said to me that this doesn't work, but if you take something that's very alive for you right now and take it into the woods or another nature-based setting, like you will find yourself answering that question and coming to some sort of a place of truth. So break it down. Purpose is this huge, big, elusive thing. Like break it down, use the 6 Ps, break it down into smaller, bite-sized, manageable concepts and ideas, and then sit with it and be with it. And I promise you that you'll start to find the path.
Oh, that's great, Andrea. Thank you. That's such a lovely, lovely note to end on. And also, Lois has just written in the chat about actually diarising and committing to spending that time with yourself, which I think is a really, really nice kind of practical way to make sure you do that. And I've heard that a lot recently. So, yeah. All right, great. Well, we'll leave it there for today. As obviously, Andrea, you've said, it's links to the inner quest. So if anyone would like to know more about that, then head to the link, and we'll also share the recording of the slides and the link and the discount in the email this afternoon. Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you everyone for being here.
My pleasure. It's been really fun. Thanks. Hopefully see some of you again soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.